Hey, this is Daryl Henry with the Insurance for Entrepreneurs YouTube channel, where I'm making videos for entrepreneurs trying to do something great, because I'm trying to do something great. So, this video is what insurance do plumbers need? Let's go. The first coverage that I want to talk about is general liability insurance. General liability insurance will protect you for lawsuits regarding bodily injury and property damage that you cause to other people or organizations. It's broken down into a couple parts. You have premises liability, which are slips and falls on your job site. You have product and completed operations, which are issues with your work. And then third is personal and advertising injury. That's if you take out an advertisement and somebody doesn't like it. So that's the base coverage that most people buy. The next two I want to talk about can get attached to the general liability insurance, and they are contractors' errors and omissions and pollution liability. Let me explain why those two exist. The errors and omissions coverage exists because professional liability is excluded under a general liability policy. So errors and omissions is going to protect you for design work, failure to provide. It's a lack of care type of coverage, as opposed to direct physical damage or direct bodily injury. That's the nuance and that's the difference. And then pollution liability is there because under general liability, if you put something in the ground that's not supposed to be there, it can be excluded. That's the idea of pollution liability. So the example that I learned in a class is if a milk truck turns over on the highway and all the milk pours out, that milk is a pollutant because it didn't belong there in the ground. So all the cleanup is pollutant. So we talked about general liability, contractors' errors and omission, pollution liability. Next, let's talk about auto insurance. If the business owns vehicles, you need to buy insurance for the vehicles. One of the things I see happen is that the owner will sometimes own the vehicle personally and then use it for the business. Be careful doing that. With auto insurance policies, the name on the title needs to match the name on the insurance policy. So just make sure you are talking to your insurance broker and that the policy is set up correctly. And then after that, you should also look at hired and non-owned auto liability. This is coverage for people driving their personal vehicle on behalf of the business, and hired and non-owned auto protects the business after the personal auto insurance has been exhausted. After that, workers' compensation insurance. Workers' compensation protects, it pays for on-the-job injuries for your employees. Now, one thing that will trip a lot of people up is they will tell me, hey, they're paid on a 1099, I don't need to cover them on workers' compensation insurance. And that's not true. If your subs are uninsured, your workers' compensation policy can end up having to pay for their on-the-job injuries. So that's where it's really important to make sure that your subs have not just general liability insurance, but also workers' compensation insurance. Moving on from there, let's talk about the different types of property insurance that you'll need as a plumber. If you own a building, you need to insure the building. Inside of that building, or if you have an office space, you may have desks, chairs, computer equipment, that type of thing. You need to insure that. But what I see more often are contractor tools. A bunch of tools that are in the back of the truck that you have to take to job sites to do the job. And those come in a couple of different categories. There's tools that are owned by the business, there's tools that you rent, you lease, and then there's tools that your employees have. There's a difference for insurance in all of them. So make sure that you've got an inventory and you're thinking about those things and that you've got them scheduled before you have an issue. After that, you should also think about employment practices liability insurance. This protects the business for hiring and firing decisions that you make. So that means if one of your employees comes back and says, hey, you didn't give me enough jobs because I'm gay, black, white, transgender, Latino, whatever, if they come back and sue you for wrongful hiring and firing, that's an employment practices liability claim. Once again, This coverage exists because it's excluded under your general liability insurance. So that's why you have a separate coverage. And the next thing I want to talk to you about is cyber insurance. Everybody needs to think about cyber insurance because businesses take credit card transactions. You keep customer information on file. Depending on the work you do, you may have access to other people's systems. And cyber liability insurance pays for the damage to other people's data that you cause in the course of your work. The target breach was the result of an HVAC contractor. The threat actor got into the target system through the HVAC contractor. So it's important to think about cyber liability. Lastly, to wrap it all up, if you have a larger business, you have assets, multiple vehicles, and it's not hard to think about how you could cause more than $1 million of damage to another person or organization, you should think about an umbrella. An umbrella will increase the maximum amount that will be paid in a liability claim to somebody else. So the way it works is, let's say one of your employees is driving one of the work trucks. They get in a terrible accident on a local highway and they really hurt another family. That family comes back and sues for $2 million because, the driver was severely hurt and there's a couple of kids in the back. The auto insurance policy usually has $1 million limit. That'll pay the first $1 million. If you have an umbrella policy, it'll sit on top of the auto policy and increase the maximum amount that will be paid out in a claim. There you go. Those are the coverages you need to be thinking about as a plumber. If you've got any questions and you want to talk to someone about it, send me an email at daryl.henry1103@gmail.com. And if this information was helpful, please click like and subscribe. It helps other people find the channel and lets them know that the content was good. Thanks for tuning in.